Have you ever heard of the gorilla who painted her dreams, played lullabies on a recorder, and asked humanity to listen, not with words, but with hands? If you haven't, then take a breath and lean in, because this isn't just the tale of a remarkable animal. It's the story of what it means to be seen, to be heard, and to find a voice in silence. Aya was born one stormy morning in the spring of 1974, deep in the mist-veiled hills of Rwanda. Her mother, Luma, gave birth beneath a massive fig tree, its leaves dripping with the aftermath of the early rains. Aya was smaller than the other infants in the troop, with unusually deep eyes and a calm, observing nature. While her siblings tumbled through underbrush, hooting and wrestling, Aya often sat apart, tracing the shapes of fallen leaves or watching birds dart through the canopy. There was a peculiar awareness in her gaze, something that unsettled even the most seasoned trackers. One of them, an old ranger named Pascal, remarked quietly to a colleague, "That one sees through us. Like she remembers something we forgot." Luma was fiercely protective. She had lost 2 offspring before Aya and guarded this child with the quiet vigilance of one who knew the cost of love. But even she couldn't stifle Aya's curiosity. At only 6 months old, Aya began mimicking the gestures of others, not randomly, as infant gorillas often did, but deliberately, with purpose. She touched her chest when watching her mother eat, then tapped a banana leaf. Later, she repeated the motion when hungry. Over time, her gestures began forming patterns. When a hawk circled above, she mimicked its flight with her arms, followed by tapping the ground. To some, it seemed mere play. To others, it was the earliest sign of something extraordinary. Meanwhile, thousands of miles away, in a small Oxford University office cluttered with research papers, Dr. Miriam Vale reviewed grainy footage of Coco the gorilla, famed for her use of American Sign Language. At only 28, Miriam had already developed a reputation as a brilliant but stubborn primatologist. She believed deeply that communication wasn't an exclusively human trait, but something shared and waiting to be unlocked. Her peers dismissed her ideas as romantic idealism. Still, she applied for a grant to study the cognitive capacity of gorillas in their natural habitats. Twice, she was rejected. On her third attempt, she added a single sentence to the proposal: "What if the next great poet isn't human?" That sentence earned her just enough funding to travel to Rwanda. Miriam arrived at the preserve in 1978 with nothing but a duffel bag, worn notebooks, and a battered tape recorder. She'd read reports of an odd, young female gorilla named Aya who rarely vocalized and seemed to gesture at clouds. Intrigued, she hiked into the hills with a guide, and on her second day, saw Aya sitting quietly by a stream, poking at the ripples with a stick. There was an intensity in her stillness, a grace Miriam couldn't quite explain. For weeks, Miriam observed without interacting. She noted that Aya avoided confrontation, preferred observing to participating, and spent long moments staring into the sky. Eventually, Miriam placed a small metal water bottle near her. Aya approached cautiously, picked it up, examined it, and then looked directly at Miriam. She tipped the bottle slightly, made a gesture with 2 fingers moving to her mouth, and looked back. It was unmistakable, the sign for drink. Miriam's heart raced. She mirrored the gesture. Aya repeated it. Over the next weeks, they built a vocabulary: food, bird, tree, mother, son. Aya wasn't just imitating, she was understanding. She associated signs with concepts and remembered them days later. Miriam introduced objects with names, and Aya often created her own signs when existing ones didn't suffice. She called the sun, sky fire, and named paint, color dirt. When Miriam showed her a mirror, Aya touched her face, then signed, Aya other. She recognized herself. That moment would later be cited in psychology journals as a groundbreaking sign of self-awareness in non-human primates. As Aya matured, her abilities blossomed. Miriam fought fiercely to keep her out of laboratories and zoos, insisting that the forest remain her home. With donor support, a language research center was constructed at the forest's edge, a sanctuary without cages, with gardens and rooms open to the sky. Aya's space had musical instruments, a canvas wall for painting, touchscreen lexicons, and a hammock where she spent hours swaying and watching the clouds. Paint became her language of emotion. Her earliest works were simple swirls, but over time, she began illustrating stories. One painting showed a red circle surrounded by dark green. Asked what it was, she signed, "Aya Tree Born." Her sense of memory and identity grew more defined with each brushstroke. Rangers, once skeptical, became her admirers. One in particular, a young woman named Amara, was deeply moved by Aya's art and began sketching the guerrilla's daily activities. She wasn't a scientist, just a ranger's daughter with a gift for observation. She noticed Aya's sensitivity to sound and brought her a child's toy recorder one afternoon. Aya pressed the buttons curiously, producing random notes. Within a week, she played deliberate melodies. Her favorite was, "Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star." She'd play it, then sign, "Star's Sleep Music." The arrival of Koji changed everything. He was a young male rescued from poachers, malnourished and terrified of humans. Aya approached him slowly, always at a distance. She brought him leaves and sat silently nearby. On the 5th day, she painted a simple circle with 2 dots and signed, "Friend." Eventually, Koji began to trust her. He learned signs from her. She taught him the concept of safe. After 6 months, Koji signed back, "Koji love Aya." Their bond became the emotional core of the sanctuary. In time, the center began receiving visitors. One of them was Elsie, an 8-year-old deaf girl whose parents were linguists. Elsie brought her own dialect of sign language. Aya was captivated by her rapid hand motions. The two developed a shared language, half human, half gorilla sign. When Elsie left, Aya signed, "Girlfriend Voice Hands." That single phrase inspired the eventual founding of the Aya Institute for Visual Communication, a global education initiative dedicated to exploring nonverbal expression. In 1999, wildfires crept dangerously close to the preserve. Even before smoke appeared, Aya grew restless. She signed, "Fire Mountain Cry," again and again, days before the first flame was visible. Her sensitivity to atmospheric changes astounded meteorologists. After the fires passed, Aya painted a swirling chaos of red and black. When Miriam asked her what it meant, Aya signed, "Man hurt earth. Tree sad." By her late 20s, Aya's movements slowed. She still painted and signed, but less frequently. When Miriam brought her infant niece to visit, Aya cradled the child with remarkable gentleness, signed, "Baby Small World New," and hummed softly. Her final painting was a spiral in shades of blue with a yellow hand at the center. Asked its meaning, Aya signed, "Aya Go Sky Sleep." Aya Love. She pointed to her heart, then to Miriam, then to the trees. She passed away peacefully the next morning beneath the fig tree where she had been born. Koji sat beside her body all day and refused food for 2 days after. Her death sent ripples across the world. Memorials were held on 5 continents. Children lit candles in classrooms. Her paintings were displayed in galleries from New York to Tokyo. The sanctuary was renamed the Aya Center for Cross-Species Communication. But her real legacy wasn't in headlines. It lived on in the children who learned to sign, in the researchers who approached animals with reverence, and in the understanding that intelligence takes many forms. Years later, Amara, now the center's director, still visits the fig tree every morning. She places a flower at its base, looks up through the misty branches, and whispers, "We're still listening." And in the rustle of leaves, in the hush between wind and birdsong, perhaps Aya still replies, somewhere beyond the reach of words.